Perfect.
All right, so we are joined from Jersey City, New Jersey, there on the shores of New York City by Shadeira Nesmith, founder of Stacked Up Academy, coding expert, software engineer. Thank you so much for joining us today. This is our computer science engineering class. I've got a room full here with me at Velma Jackson High School, and we're recording this for all of our friends in Madison County schools, including my good friend Angela Jordan over at Shirley Simmons Middle School. Germantown High School, Germantown Middle, Rosa Scott, Academic Options Center, our YouTube channel. So thank you so much for taking some time for us today.
Awesome. Thank you for having me.
Now, obviously, you're doing a lot of things, not as a business owner and as an engineer, but you originally went to college, not for computer science. You changed it to a minor while you were there. So take us a little bit about your background and your college path and how you kind of got into the tech space.
Yeah, awesome. I believe when I first entered college, I was studying embedded psychology, and that came from my high school experience having a psychology class. And I was like, oh, this is really interesting. I really enjoy it. So let me go into that. So that's my first time when I went into college. That's what I majored in. So after I believe like the first year, I was like, this is not as exciting as it was for me in high school. Let me try something different. And I think initially what I wanted to do, and I think that's a lot of things too, like um, a lot of people don't know what they want to major in when they go into college. And I feel like even with my company, Stacked Up Academy, that's where we're trying to bridge the gap to not make it where I know like a lot of my friends also they changed their major like 3 to 4 times. So kind of having less of that. But I think I changed it probably my sophomore year to biology. And I thought I would be like probably like in sports medicine or something. And then I failed all my chemistry classes, and I was like, no, I cannot do this. So mid-year, probably spring semester, that's when I entered in communications and media studies. And then I was like, okay, this is fun. And it was new to me because I was able to be like on radio and TV and different things like that. So that was kind of something also getting me out of my comfort zone of like being able to like speak and stuff like that. Cause all your classes, like you have to go up, you have to present and different things like that. Then I was like, it was like when I was learning about the field, people were like, it's really hard to get into media. So probably try to take something else. And then that's when I discovered like tech. And I was like, okay, let me take information technologies. So I took up a IT minor, and then that's how I kind of entered my way into like the tech sector of things.
Absolutely, and you've become a coding expert on multiple coding languages that I know a lot of our kids are already learning, and some that they may not even be familiar with yet. Now, the interesting thing, and I've asked a lot of guests, the interesting thing about the IT and coding space is that it can be very lucrative. And obviously, we do not
Hmm.
discourage anybody from going to a great university. We have a lot of them here in Mississippi, and all over the country. But you do not necessarily need a college degree to be an IT coding tech professional. So tell us a little bit about that
Yeah.
because we've had a lot of IT people say, look, if you got a degree, that's great, but we're more interested in knowing, can you do the job? Do you have the experience? Do you have the certification? Because that's something they can even do out of high school.
Yes, no, for sure. I think especially what most people look for when you're going into jobs and you're applying for something within tech is just that experience of like, can you create these projects? Are you able to collaborate on a team? Do you understand the code? So if you're already doing that like in high school and you're building out projects and portfolios and you have something to show, you're able to get internships. A lot of times though, when it does come to a lot of these companies that are like these FANG companies that are hiring, sometimes they want people to just be in college just so they can put them as credits instead of paying them sometimes. So that's kind of like why most times people would want those roles to be in college. But a lot of programs now are being developed so that a lot of these students that are going to boot camps, that are going to programs like Coding Black Females, and they're learning within a 6 month time span, something that doesn't take 4 years to learn. So that's kind of like the main standpoint. So there's so many different avenues that you can go into within tech that you can get into without having to go to college. I know I recently did a program. I did a lot of programs over the summer, but I contracted at a program in New York. It's called SEO Scholars, and they basically have a tech program for students in college that kind of walks them through like Python and different things and helps them build portfolios together and work in big teams. And a lot of the students that I had in my group, they were saying like, we didn't learn a lot of this at school. And they're all computer science majors. They're in IT, they're different sectors, and a lot of stuff that they learned within 6 weeks, they learned more in 6 weeks than they did within 3 years of being in their major as computer science majors.
Wow. And that's not a knock on computer science majors. It's just a reality of a field that grows so fast. We have
Hmm.
ability here at Madison County Schools. They can get IT certified in 10th and 11th grade. And then also we have great community college programs where they can do the certification to get into the field in just 10 months. So it really is multiple ways to get in. And the military is also a great way to get into IT and tech. And now
Yeah,
the interesting thing
for
about
sure.
tech as well, and we had a guest last semester, even if you want to work in a non-tech company, every company has tech people or they're
Hmm.
using tech contractors, whether it's a
Yeah.
hotel, whether it's we had one that she was an IT person at a trucking company. She doesn't know anything about driving trucks,
Hmm.
but she handles all of their software, all of their servers. So, what are some of these jobs that are getting more and more prevalent, that maybe kids may not have thought about that are literally in every company?
Yes, I love this topic. Yes, I think also what is important is people can do certifications. Certifications don't have an age limit to them. I know Google, a lot of people that I know who have taken Google certifications have gotten jobs just based off of their certification and building projects throughout their certification. So that's to note another thing. That's another great way. If you can't afford a boot camp or if you don't get accepted into one that's applying, that's letting you, learn these tech skills. But I think a lot of jobs are opening within tech that a lot of people don't know are good tech jobs. So I think as well, especially like starting as like a IT specialist that just works on like the computer, doing things that you do every day, like within class, like kind of working on like a Microsoft or different things, just knowing those different tools, how to set up an Excel sheet. So just doing things that are computer based and then growing your way into that because those IT jobs are just like fillers where people just want you to put in information that they have because you can do that at like an airport. Like you can work for an airline doing some IT stuff. There's tech jobs in every field that there is, like someone's behind something. Even if I tell a lot of people who are wanting to kind of get their hands more into tech as well is developing websites for people. A lot of people do need like little websites and stuff like that. So kind of helping people build out different things that kind of help with their businesses or just something probably if someone's even having something as a wedding, they want a wedding website. You can do different things like that for your family members and kind of build that into your portfolio as you go on in high school where you won't even have to, because that's kind of the main gist of things. Like I work with a lot of people, a lot of students in college, and they're like, I can't get a job. And it's like they don't have a portfolio. So it doesn't
Yep.
matter how long you've been in school, it doesn't matter the classes you've taken. They want to see the work that you can do and how are you building these projects and can you talk about what you're building? Can you understand code when you see it? And then outside of that, there are jobs where you don't have to be as technical, but that are in tech. This can be product development, this can be product management, something like a scrum master, just overseeing that tech field. So I think there's so many opportunities that people can do that because a lot of people don't like to, code, but a lot of people do like to be in that environment. And there's just so many opportunities for that.
Yeah, and some of our sixth and seventh graders even are going to see this later that are in our ICT programs in middle school, and they're starting to learn these basic coding languages. So, what is some things they can
Mhm.
build as far as a portfolio now to show that they have those skills? So when they get ready to transition into high school and maybe college or career, what are some things that they can show they know even at 12, 13 years old?
Yeah, I think definitely anything that they can apply some type of design to, and then that also functions. So maybe even building like a calculator, but walking through like the different things that you built with that in that calculator, making the calculator a little more advanced, like letting it do different fractions and different things like on the calculator that you built, and all of that code that you're building to make that happen would be like in either your JavaScript or your Python, and making sure that that code is really good. Also, when you are coding, get in a GitHub account. And GitHub is basically a platform where you can store your projects that you're working on within code. And on GitHub, every time you finish something on that calculator project, just pushing it. So it's called pushing the code. So you push the code and show that you're constantly working on the code and building up. Something that you'll see on GitHub is they have like these little green dots to show that you're working. So also people like to see that you're actively working on projects. Maybe something like building, I always use this example, like a lemonade stand and building a website for a lemonade stand and showing different things like that, showing that you are understanding even the e-commerce part of things within tech, because there are a lot of jobs like Shopify or Squarespace or WordPress. They also hire people to work on their teams as web developers to build out these sites. And it's not just like actual sites, but like templates and things like that. So there's a lot of fun things you can do. I think for more logical people that like the math and stuff, you have that side of tech. And the people that like the designs, the colors, you have that side of tech.
Yeah.
And you like people who like to oversee, you have that side of tech. So it's just so many different things that you can build to just show that you're understanding what that is. But I think definitely like something like more advanced would be like a game, something you can do. Platforms like Code HS, they have like an app building thing where you can kind of build a
Yeah.
game out. You can build like little games, probably like a similar to Flappy Bird or something. And those are, they sound complex, but when you start building them, they're actually not as hard to build.
Yeah, and all of our students actually have access to Code HS. I'm glad you mentioned that. That's a great
Nice.
site they can play around with, and really, it's kind of like a sandbox
Mhm.
thing. They can have a lot of fun with that. Now, and I know we've been talking about tech jobs, but I think it's important also to talk about, all of them now that are here with me are watching you on an iOS operating system on a MacBook. But I think it's important for the students to know that you're going to have to learn multiple programs, multiple software programs, no matter what field you go into. Because I have kids all the time say, "Man, I'm not going to need to code. I'm not going to need to know this. I'm doing XYZ when I get older," and that's fine. But how much of these
Yeah.
tech tools are going to be needed across platforms? Because the media loves to
Yeah.
scare us and say robots and tech's going to take our jobs, and that's not true. But what is true is that the skills needed and the types of jobs are going to change. So why is it so important for kids, even if they say, "Look, I'm gonna be a marketing person," they're going to need to know some type of tech and
Mhm.
and coding. And now you're seeing it more and more in healthcare. Doctors are working with AI
Yeah.
programs to diagnose illnesses. So is it so important for them to at least be familiar with basic coding and basic tech skills as they move through high school?
Yeah, I think it's super important because what happens is being that the world is changing and we are entering the space of like AI, and AI is a way of just making things just move faster. I think a lot of times that when I'm also working with my students who are going into be developers, like that's the main thing for them. Like, is AI going to take my job? And the thing about AI was built by a developer. So someone had to build something in order for it to work. And then a lot of times people do use AI and they don't understand anything that AI gave them in code. So as a developer, even being able to read code is super important. So it can't take something away from somebody that, doesn't understand what it has to do. And you have to tell AI what to do in order for it to work. But I think it's definitely what, like you said, in the medical field, just using things to be able to make these diagnoses, to put in information easier, to be able to look up stuff easier. A lot of times, just as simple as using the computer to find specific things is important in every job field because your tech is basically everywhere. Like you're using a computer to log into your job, no matter whether you're in marketing. A lot of people intersect a lot of times, especially if you start to go into a field where you work for a startup and you don't work for a bigger company, you're going to be doing more than one job, and those jobs are going to evolve a lot of things within tech. So whether it's kind of just updating, whether it's sending different emails, you'll be surprised how many people don't even know how to just use things on a keyboard or just find certain things on the web or even understand what they're searching when they get on the web. Something is even as important as knowing what a 404 page is. When you get that, why is that happening? Identifying why that's happening and just having that little leverage of just knowing more than, your colleague is just super important to kind of just help everybody else or just show you can kind of master skills in different places. And I think what's also really important is just knowing how to maneuver within those spaces because sometimes you think, okay, I'm not going to need this, but over time you'll realize how much easier it makes the work that you're doing and how much faster you can kind of accomplish things when you know how to use tech. And then I think what's also important, just knowing how to type as well, like no matter where you're at, knowing how to type at a certain rate, typing, practicing typing and different things like that is super important.
Yeah, and I know they do cover that in our middle school areas, and that's a skill that I think is very underrated, one of the most underrated skills in America. But I know we've talked a little bit about the healthcare industry because you see some of these experts that say there's going to be more tech and engineering people in hospitals than actual healthcare professionals in the next 10 years. So if that's the area you'd want to get into, being a tech person could be very lucrative for you because even now as a teacher, we have to know multiple software programs and we can't just say, well, I'm only
Mhm.
comfortable with this. If a company wants to use a certain program,
Yeah.
you've got to learn
Yeah. And then I think as well, when it comes to learning different languages, if you are going into that coding field, what's nice about that is you can learn one language, and then what happens is you'll get the job and you have to do a whole different language. So being able to know how to adjust to those different languages that you have to teach. I think a lot of jobs within the medical field as well, they have like coding medical people. I'm not sure like the exact name of it, but it's like a medical field where you can do different things where you're coding different things for hospitals and certain things. And it's not exactly just based on code, but it's within that tech sector. And a lot of times what you'll notice as you get older and you start to work, sometimes you want to change what you're doing. You want to elevate within your career. And you can't do that if you stick within the same thing or, stick to just what you know. And knowing tech can elevate you a lot within those positions that you're in. Because once you have a skill, that others don't have, but in your same position, you can elevate to different roles and grow much easier within your career instead of staying in one place.
Absolutely. Now, we got to talk about Stacked Up Academy because even if we have kids that aren't interested in tech, we have a lot of kids interested in entrepreneurship. And I think it's becoming
Yeah.
more and more popular, especially since COVID. And because I have kids every year say, I want to be an entrepreneur, I want to work for myself. That's great. What's your plan?
Mm-hmm.
So, and I know entrepreneurship is glamorized on social media. They all see the glamorous side of it on Instagram, but there's a lot of legwork and a lot of planning that goes into it. So, tell us a little bit about the Stacked Up Academy, what you're doing, how the idea came about, and how you run your business.
Yes, for sure. So, Stacked Up Academy is an educational program for K through 12 students teaching about coding, graphic design, and financial literacy. So, kind of making sure that students are learning these skills before they get into the real world and actually have to deal with certain things that may be scary to them, I would say, especially within the financial literacy part. You get into, you go to school, you take out a loan, and you don't understand what's going to happen after, you graduate. And then now sometimes people are still in debt. People pass away in debt of never paying, the college loans and stuff like that. So really understanding how to really make that something important. And I think a lot of times, even when I was in high school, you don't understand how important it is to get good grades. So you realize that, and to probably even after college, like, it's really important to get those good grades, to get those scholarships, or to just get a little money, because you do find yourself paying off stuff that, you don't really have to or shouldn't have to. So I think also with Stacked Up Academy, what we're trying to do is just help students learn what they want to do and then make sure that they're managing whatever they have. So managing money, managing just the fields that they want to go in. Also, what's big with graphic design is that letting students know that there are careers where you can be a graphic designer and still make as much as a doctor. You can be a you can make billboards, the billboards that you see in New York. You can design stuff like that. You can design presentations. You can design things that you see at your favorite stores and different things like that. Those posters and stuff. Those are real careers. So that's kind of what we're trying to help people like decide, what do you really want to do in the careers that we are, the fields we're teaching about. These can all be, again, entrepreneurship fields as well. Like if you want to do your own business, if you want to start something with these careers, or if you want to go into school, you can be a marketing major. And this also helps within that graphic design space, and different things like that. So what we have right now is we have like flashcards to kind of help students understand or study for different things. So if you're learning how to code, you're studying for like HTML. If you want to learn how to use Photoshop, we have cards to kind of walk you through the different tools. And then just introducing you to words within financial literacy, like what is a KPI, what is a DAO, what is a stock, and different things like that, and just introducing students to those different things.
Yeah, and that's stackedupacademy.com, where all that
Yeah.
information is. Really, really cool stuff on there. Now, obviously, we'd be remiss if we didn't talk about your role of coding Black females. We've had Charlene Hunter as a guest of this class, as well as Jesse Augusti, our friends over in the UK. And coding Black, and in the UK, they have the same diversity issues that we have in the United States. Now, that's not to say we don't encourage all of our students to look into tech. We have a lot of first generation Americans in our district. We have a lot of we have a lot of uh, diverse races in our district, but coding Black females has really pushed more Black females and Black kids in general to get into coding, and you've become one of their first liaisons in the United States. So, talk about what you do with them and why it's so important for everyone to understand why they could play such a vital role in these tech careers.
hmm I think it's super important to so what I do is I'm the instructor. So I instructed as a software development instructor for the Java boot camp. So that means basically the whole entire boot camp was based on Java. So them learning how to do Java coding and then kind of building out their own programs using Java. So also what is really good about the program as well is just intersecting them also being introduced to like a little bit of HTML and CSS, because a lot of times that gets kind of thrown to the back when people are learning how to code. So I think it's super important to do that. And then also them being partnered with a company. So students are able to kind of work with this company after they're graduating. And this is just super important, especially for minorities and then Black women, and knowing that within going into tech and how hard it is to see to get these jobs or even to be introduced to these things because you're in competition with a lot of other people. So I think what happens with coding Black females is that you are taking these women that are, that they're not coming from a traditional background. Some of them probably don't have college degrees, or some of them do have college degrees. Some of them, it's harder for them to work into tech, or some of them are just transitioning for different career roles. Like, I want to do something different. I want to learn something different. And then giving all of them that space and opportunity to do that. You have even teachers in this class of coding Black females. So I think it's just super important that we are able to be exposed, because a lot of these programs are not focused on minorities or trying to get them into tech. And then it's really hard you have to really like network and meet different people to even get to a certain level that you want to be at. And that can be really hard when you don't have that behind you. So what I also suggest is just people getting mentors, getting people that are in spaces that you want to be in, and then asking them to, hey, can you help me? Just walk me through, how did you get into your position? And then as I go through my journey, and you can get a mentor as young. I've had mentees in high school before at different coding programs, and I think just seeing their journey and just helping them come to a standpoint of what they really want to do, or helping them understand like, this is probably what's best for you. This is what you might want to do, and don't do things because other people are telling you to do them. Do things that you're really interested in, and then anything you're interested in, you can find a career in. So I think that's just super important with coding Black females, is just making sure that everyone is able to find a space for themselves. And then if you look at a lot of the statistics, it's kind of sad that you see like probably like 90 to 50% of Black or minorities are getting turned down opposed to others in, in the same fields or applying for the same jobs. So,
Yeah, and it's important because I actually did an interview with a magazine last year, and I talked about in rural areas and in Black communities for decades, the access wasn't there, the resources weren't there, but times have changed. Just because a generational group wasn't able to have access to things doesn't mean our kids can't now. I always say just because
yeah.
you're the first person to do something doesn't mean you can't be the best at it. So learning these things now in
Hmm.
school, learning what opportunities are there, finding mentors, finding programs like that, making use of things like Code HS that you have free access to can be so vital to your professional development. And Lord knows where it can take you after that.
Yeah. No, for sure. I think it's really important that people have fun with what they're doing too within their careers because sometimes I just did a panel at NYIT, New York University of Institute of Technology. And a lot of the students there, they were asking questions like, how do you know when like I should leave a job, or how do you know when something isn't right? And then a lot of times when you're working and you are probably first generation, or you're the first person to get into a position, or maybe you're supporting your family or helping or whatever the case may be for your first job, or you're just really excited to get your first job and everybody's proud of you. But when it starts to make you sad, or just you're dreading going in and different things like that, you have to start to look elsewhere and don't let it linger, because sometimes you'll find yourself getting too comfortable and you're staying something longer than you're supposed to be. So I think also when it goes to finding careers, making sure that you're excited about what you're doing, and whatever you're doing is solving some type of problem or just helping people in any type of way, especially even if you're in the service fields of retail, or if you work at fast foods and stuff, just being really happy about what you're doing, because other people can feel that energy when they walk into the place, when you greet them and different things like that. So wherever you're at, just making sure you keep that energy. And if not, then find something that you enjoy.
Big time. Well, I do have some questions from the students. I like this one. This is Bryson Stevens. He's in ninth grade, and he asked, "What is your favorite part about coding?"
My favorite part, I would say I'm more of a front end developer. So that's kind of what you see on. So, like when you log into a website on Google and you see the word Google, you see the search bar. But when you type in, that's like JavaScript when it takes you to, that information. But I love the front end part because it's just exciting to see those things come to life, and the things that you can kind of create on the screen. I'm really big on like colors and design. So I think that's my favorite part, just being able to create something and see it work, and that satisfaction of, hey, I did that. Even time and time again, even now, it's certain code that I'm still learning, or certain things that I make mistakes on. And if you've been coding, you know that something as small as a curly brace being missing can mess up your whole code. So I think also that debugging part of trying to figure out what that error is and then finally fixing that error is something I really enjoy about coding.
Yeah, because y'all never get it right the first time, and I think I speak for all
Yeah.
teachers. Our kids get so frustrated they mess up one time. Oh, I quit. In tech,
Yeah.
engineering, all these tech fields, you're never going to get it right the first time, and
Yeah.
that's fine. I like this one. This is Zarius Cooper. He's a senior, and he asked, "What type of future developments do you see happening in coding?"
Hmm. That's a good question. I would say development's happening. I'm not sure what I see, but I do see a lot of things, especially with AI. I feel like a lot of roles will be opening up with AI, and I don't know how long these roles are going to last, but since they're so hot, people are paying like tons of money for anybody to know anything. And AI has been I recently learned at a conference, AI has been around for a long time, a very long time. But this is the first year that it's actually as publicly used as it is now. And I think just being able to know some of it and being able to kind of see within it, or just developing things. But as far as like development within like robots and stuff, I feel like that's always just something that's just gonna be experimental more so. But yeah, I think just the AI world and these jobs growing within AI and people just trying to get anybody to, that knows something to do some research on it.
Awesome. Well, I got time for one more. This is Rashawn Smith. He's also a senior. And he asked, what drew you to coding while you were in college?
What drew me to coding? Transparency, money. It was kind of like, oh, this is the field that's growing. And I was in college in 20 I graduated 2017. So probably like 2013, 14, that was the career that still people like, even back then, like, well, I mean, it's not that far ago, but even back then, people were like, tech is the field. So even
Yeah.
now, even more so, tech is still more than ever. Even if you can do tech sales, kind of like if you think about if anybody wants to be like a real estate agent, tech sales and real estate kind of go hand in hand. So if you like talking to people, and then within tech sales, it's already a product on hand and you're just selling a product that some people already want. You just have to be like, hey, these are the features of it. Okay, sold it. And then with tech sales, you get commission. So you're making like, I'm not going to throw numbers out there because I could just be talking, but you're making money just based off commission and stuff like that. So I think that's kind of what drew me to tech. But then when I got into it and I started building stuff, websites and things like that, I found that really interesting. I even had like my own web design company when I was like 23, 24. So I was
Wow.
building websites for clients, and that was really exciting for me as well, just building those websites and working with clients, meeting people. I created many friendships from being a web designer and different things like that. So I think that's kind of really what drew me to it. And then working with kids and seeing how excited they were to build apps to make Legos and robots move and different things. So that's kind of like what really kept me there.
That's awesome. Well, we're almost out of time, and we thank you so much for taking some time for us today. But
Thank
a couple things before we
you.
go. Just a couple things before we go. First of all, again, stackedupacademy.com and all your
Yes.
social medias are on there.
Yes, it is.
Okay. Now, the last thing before we go, obviously you're very passionate and about diversifying the tech field because just like every other field, we need diverse minds, we need diverse talents, we need diverse backgrounds. But why is it so important for these kids, whether they're in sixth grade or whether they're in 12th grade, to really hone their tech skills right now, no matter what field they decide to go into?
I think it's super important because learning it now is going to be way easier than learning it later. I think sometimes when you start to learn things, when you're like, oh, I need to learn this, oh, I have to hurry up, oh, I need this, it gets harder to learn and it's more frustrating when you are making those mistakes. So I think making those mistakes as early as you can within, learning tech or learning things within tech is just super important because then it also helps you realize what you like and don't like, and then when you are able to identify that, then it just makes it easier for when you are looking for jobs or doing different things within tech. But it's just super important because it's a growing field. It's very fast. Things are changing rapidly. Languages are changing. Even with languages, the actual syntax of code within a specific language changes. A lot of people think Java and JavaScript are the same thing, and they're not. Like, so just learning things like that are just super important because when you are going into these fields, you're using technology in every certain way. Even if you go to I know a lot of, fast foods or restaurants in the US now, they are using things like you have to order on a pad. Some people don't, they're like, I don't want to do this. I want to talk to a real person, which we still do need that communication of one-on-one. But just knowing how to do certain things like that is just super important because everything is turning into some type of tech that you have to understand how to use.
Absolutely. Well, again, we thank you so much for joining us, Nesmith, all the way from
Yeah.
Jersey City, New Jersey, right there on the banks of New York City. Thank you
Yes.
so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
All right, talk to you soon, buddy.
Talk to you.
See ya.